I mean, hell, you got to see Jerry Lynn. They introduced him. Although I wouldn't say quite 90, I'd say maybe 65, maybe.
Yeah, well, either way, like I said, we
He was
see.
in better shape than most of the WWE refs.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And there were also a lot of legends on hand, Joe. We saw people such as Diamond Dallas Page, Chris Jericho. He showed up and he attacked, if I'm not mistaken, it was Kenny
Well,
Omega.
yep. Well, let's go down the line here, guys. We actually saw Glacier, who we haven't seen in a long time, the WCW wrestler, Tommy Dreamer, the hardcore one himself.
Yep.
We got to see so many
Bully Ray
people.
Dudley,
Yep.
Dudley, and then of course the legendary referee Earl Ebner, Earl Hebner.
Yep, and don't forget the genius himself, the brother of the long departed Macho Man. It was Landy Poffo. What's here? So I gotta say, perfect pay per view.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn. Like,
Go
And
ahead,
we,
Lance. Put in your shit.
absolutely. I mean, bottom to top, fucking phenomenal.
all right. And over, let's move on. We had a four corner fatal four way tornado match. It was Madison Rain versus Britt Baker versus Chelsea Green and Tessa Blanchard. For those of you who do not know, Tessa Blanchard will also be in the Mae Young Classics, if I'm not mistaken. But if somebody's hearing this, correct, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Uh,
You know what, Rick? Real quick, not to cut you off, we forgot the two greatest legends of all time who was here, and they were with Tulsa Blanchard. Her father, former Four Horseman original Tully Blanchard, and the former NWA United States champion, the greatest champion, one of my role models when I was growing up, Magnum TA. They were at ringside for Tessa Blanchard. So I just want to throw that in there because these guys they needed to get their due because they were there as well.
yeah, absolutely. Again, like I said, every single one of these ladies put it down on the line. WWE should take notes. Despite the women's roster being great, these ladies really just took it up a lot more spot, like of notches. Over Tessa gets the win, and so now let's move along, guys, to the next one. We had the NWA, or what they call the 10 pounds of gold heavyweight championship match, and that's between Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes. Um, so again, another great match. Um, there were, I think we're pretty much going to say this about a lot of the matches about how these guys just absolutely, pulled it off. I had not seen a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling, or even unfortunately the newly branded NWA. I'm a fan of Cody Rhodes and Atlas and Chris Atlas. So seeing these two together, Joe, working together, for me, I was impressed.
Oh, forget it. It's so hard. Let me just say something. Not only do we get to this all in pay per view was that it was all in. It was Lucha Underground. It was the Ring of Honor. It was New Japan Wrestling. It was several people who were former Impact people. Uh, just up and down the card, the surprises we get. I, I gotta say, I was squealing more than Zoe was when she sees Dean Ambrose.
I can confirm that. And Joe, I need to go to therapy on Monday because of hearing you squeal like that.
Jeez. Well, the match ended with Cody Rhodes hitting the Crossroads for the win, and he is now the NWA champion. So with that, we're gonna go on to Joey Janela and Hangman Page. This was a street fight. I gotta give props to Penelope Ford. She was a big part. She was a part in this match, and she wasn't just pulling little cheap shots. She was just walking in and beating the elevated shit out of. That's like one woman you just don't want to piss off, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God! This girl was doing moves that the Bellas would never do. Forget it. Every woman in the WWE will not do. This girl, except for a few, this girl was performing moves like a man, and she got in there and she was doing stuff that even I said, "Damn God, I'm not nowhere near that woman." And I don't, while she's beautiful and everything, I don't want to get her pissed off at me.
Yeah, and again, there was some nice spots, but this is one of the longer matches of the night that really wasn't even necessary. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Hangman got the win. I didn't actually post
Yep.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Shows you how much I've been
His
smoking tonight,
finisher
folks.
off of a damn ladder through a fucking table.
Yeah. Uh, Again, so now, guys, for me, this is one of my, I guess, favorite matches of the night, and this was Jay Lethal, also known as tonight. He was Black Machismo, Rose's evil head once again, and as he faced a Flip Gordon. Joe, I think even the commentators mentioned how this was a WrestleMania 3 very feel type match because when Flip Gordon pretty much not only had that kind of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat back and forth connection, he also did the Hulk up for a second.
Yeah. If I may, this match was everything I enjoyed from the '80s. It had a beautiful tribute to the Macho Man Randy Savage because they okayed Jay Lethal to wear the actual outfit that Randy Savage used when he entered WCW. And he came out with even Randy's music. And it was real funny because when they smacked his left shoulder, he became Randy Savage. When Randy slapped his shoulder again, he became Jay Lethal and didn't know what the hell was going on. So, and then after that, again, the genius Lenny Poffo hit him again, and he went back to being the Macho Man. But for the opening minutes of this match, if you look at both WrestleMania 3, the Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match, this match was that for the first few minutes. Then they did a homage to the Hogan and Macho feud where he hulked up. Lance, I gotta say real quick, geez, man, we were at the edge of our seats with this show.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be one of those where I'm not going to be able to pick a best match of the night. Because there's just so much good shit.
Yeah, well, you know what? It may not be the best match of the night, but it's definitely, so far at that point, it was the match of the night.
It's one of those. This is about. Oh fuck! That's just that. What?
Well, the funny part is that Jay Lethal had kidnapped Brandy Rhodes, thinking she was Elizabeth. He even hoisted her up on the shoulder. It was again. To me, there was a lot more entertainment than wrestling. Yeah. I'm not taking the aspect of wrestling away because it was a great match. And Jay Lethal, he gets the win. And after the match, Bully Ray comes down and starts beating Gordon down with a chain. Colt Cabana comes down for the rescue, and I believe it was all three men finally put Bully through the table. So again, great match. Well, let's move along. We saw Pentagon Jr. versus Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is the New Japan Pro World Wrestling, but this was a non-title match. And despite that, again, I mean, I don't know how many times we could say it. Best match of the night. Omega got a win with a one-winged angel. After the match, the lights went out, and we saw it looked like the Pentagon, but it's just started beating the hell out of out of Kenny
Kenny
Omega.
Omega.
Thank you, Kenny Omega. And he pulls off, comes to find out who it is. Chris Jericho, who did his little plug for his, it's called the Jericho Cruise, which I think is coming up. I'm not sure exactly the date, Joe, on if you know what time when that comes.
Absolutely, I don't know. We fans, we will bring that up to you.
Well,
Exactly
Joe,
what's going on.
This just in. You just made the list.
Exactly. You know what's funny? Again, here we are. We don't know what's going on here, and that's another beautiful thing about this show, was that we were kept in the dark about what was going on. Finally, they had people who knew how to keep a secret and not leak it out in social media. You know, when Jericho pulled that mask off, we didn't know what he was doing. You know, and all of a sudden, bam! It's Chris Jericho, and we were like, "What the hell?" And we just was in surprise throughout this whole show. To be honest, folks, let's put it like this: not only did we get to see the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship, we got to see the NWA Heavyweight Championship. We got to see the Young Bucks' that was not on the line, but they had the IWGP title. Kenny Omega, the IWGP champion. This was a well done, and bear with me if you folks don't remember this, but you can look it up on YouTube. This was a well done version of Super Clash. If you don't know what Super Clash is, back in the 80s, Vern Gagne teamed up with the NWA, with the original NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, and many others, and they did this multi federation promotion event, and it did so far good. It did good, decent buy rates, but nothing that has ever come close to it, to what we saw tonight. With the meshing of all these promotions, they put out their best people out there. They didn't hog no matches. Everybody had a good time. And again, the surprises, the stars, the people who came out. Again, for me, it made me a wrestling fan one more time. Lance.
Yeah, I mean, this was, and I have not been able to say this about very many wrestling shows from the past, hell, I don't know, 10 years. This was fun. Big time fun. I was able to suspend my disbelief and just get into it, which, to be honest, I haven't been able to get into it for a long ass time.
And Rick, one more thing too. This was All In was the number one trending thing on Twitter. If you always heard the thing when WWE posts a show, we're the number one content, we're the number one group in we're trending number one in Twitter. Well, guess what, guys? Move over, because All In just beat you guys.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next match, we had Akota versus Marty Scurll and Skrull.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, at first, Joe,
squirrely.
yeah, this was
We're
this.
just fucking around now with Rick.
Yeah, pretty much. Guys, at first this was a really dry match, but things picked up later, and it looked like there was Marty Scurll was kind of like at us. There was an English referee at hand, Joe. I believe you know the referee's name, New Japan referee. I didn't know.
Absolutely. He's legendary referee from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tiger Hattori. If you don't know who he is, he was a wrestler. He was also an amateur wrestler. Look him up. He did some good matches back in New Japan Wrestling. So he is like, put it like this: Hattori is like what Earl Hebner and the little Nate himself, Charles Robinson, was to our wrestling. And oh God, what was his name? Lance. What was Gorilla Monsoon's son? Joey Morella.
Yeah.
So he's in that. Tiger Hattori is in that same level as a referee. So just want to throw that in there. Rick?
All right, I'm sorry about that technical issue there. And the main event uh, was Rey Mysterio, Phoenix, Bandito, and what they call the Golden Elite. That's the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi. Guys, again, we said, not taking anything away from me, this was the match of the night. Uh, from bell to bell, it was chaotic. We saw counters, double counters, kickouts. Yeah, we saw a mixture of technical as well as high flying. Uh, Joe, for me, like I said, match of the night, hands down.
Oh hell, I'm gonna say the whole night was match of the night if we were to run this
Exactly.
up. I gotta say this: the counters, and I always complain about spot monkeys, but you know what? These didn't. These guys were not being spot monkeys. They were doing matches. They were doing the moves, and it wasn't like, okay, we kick out every 5 seconds. No, they followed it. They told the story. They used ring psychology, and I gotta give again kudos. This whole show was nothing but kudos to all everybody. And I'm not a big Young Bucks fan, but tonight they made me a fan. So kudos to you guys, the Young Bucks, and to Cody Rhodes, to the NWA, to Ring of Honor, to Lucha Underground, because you guys did something that Vince is going to be probably fuming in his office and say, why the hell don't we look like that? They may have the bigger production, they may have the big contracts, but this All In was the greatest wrestling show ever. And I got to say real quick, Rey Mysterio dressed as Wolverine. I didn't think Ray had it in him, but you know what? Lance Ray surprised the hell out of everybody.
Well, I mean, Ray was like a fine wine. He just gets better with age.
And
I
at
Yeah,
mean, he
least his
says he
knees
don't
held
have
out.
that many more matches left in him, but damn, when he goes like that, holy shit.
yeah. And you know what? Honestly, like I said, it was a first because, but he has done a lot of superhero uh, type gimmicks. I think he even did the Spider-Man. I think that was one of the few
Yeah.
that was very, very notorious. Uh,
Yeah.
but but all that aside, guys, again, incredible match. The Golden Elite, they got the win, and the show came to an end. Without question, 5-star pay-per-view. With the exception of maybe the Skrull Okada match, it
Yeah.
was a 5-star match, absolutely. Joe, your final thoughts?
Absolutely. To say a 5-star match, hell, I would throw an additional five on there because, again, not only did they have great wrestling, they had great special guests that came down. This was, I wasn't thinking too much of this pay per view, but after seeing it, thank God we watched it because, we will be doing our fans who listen to us every Thursday night, Injustice, and other times in the chat room, and that's HWR chat room on Facebook and HWR show on YouTube. Just want to throw that in there. We will be doing them in Injustice if we didn't report this, and thank God that we all got together and we reported this because, again, this was a night of great professional wrestling.
Absolutely. And Lance, over to you.
Well, long story short, they pretty much this was a whole night of putting Vince on notice. Basically, they just went, "Hey, beat this bitch."
And you know what? That's not too far from the truth, guys. We watched SummerSlam, and I think it was a kind of a back and forth thing. But the match again before that, which was I'm sorry, it was the event. It was NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4, and we even said, guys, 5-star match. But for an indie show that sold out, the fans were screaming. That says, guess what, WWE? We may not make as much money as you are, but guess what? We're coming. And I hope, really, Joe, that this is going to be more than just a one-shot night.
Yep, and you said it. You nailed it right there, Rick. Indie This was an actual, folks, this was an indie program. This was an indie pay-per-view. This wasn't a major company. This was several minor companies, not taking away anything from Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, and the NWA, which is now owned by Billy Corgan, but they haven't made any significant moves. They have basically done their little shows and never moved forward. Tonight, I guess it took the prodding from Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks to finally make this happen. And you know what? Vince, when a properly organized group can come together and do a pay-per-view that I'm sure it made tons of buy rates, when they can do that and challenge NXT, because this was on the same level of NXT, if not a couple notches higher, this is a warning to Vince that, hey, professional wrestling is back, and I hope these guys continue doing shows, not hot-shotting each other, but maybe another show a couple months down the road, so we can keep entertained. And I gotta say, again, 5 stars. If it was me, I'd give it 50 stars. Lance?
Absolutely 50 stars, and Vince, bitch, you're on notice.
And with that, we're going to come to the end of the HWR's All-In review, but of course we want to hear your thoughts. And you can catch us, keep in mind, every week. On Thursday at 8 o'clock, we will have Joe, the Lord Skulldron Knight, is the host of Four Corner Rants. Don't mind me, guys, a little stoned here. Joe, tell them all about it.
Absolutely. You know what? Here we are. We all get together every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about everything in professional wrestling, and I've no doubt we're going to follow what happens after All In, because we're going to keep on this and find out what's going to happen afterwards, and we're going to see how the WWE reacts to All In. So check us out this Thursday night. Absolutely, we have, remember now, Monday Night Raw is coming up and SmackDown. Let's see if they take it up a notch to compete against this. But check us out every Thursday night on here, not only on the HWR chat room, but on YouTube at the HWR Show. And I am Joseph Skulldron Knight, and you can follow me. Just do the hashtag Skulldron's Realm. And I am on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and I do game reviews and other TV and movie reviews. And I also do interviews with gamers. This week I'm going to be doing one again, probably along this week sometime. And you can find me on Twitter at Skulldron.
And last and certainly not least, he is the incomparable Lance Moss. Lance, you build guitars. You have your coffee and friends each and every week. And not to mention your redneck guru. Tell everybody about it.
Well, it's everyone's Redneck Gourmet is every Friday. Well, the season's coming to an end. We're about halfway through the season of Redneck Gourmet, which comes out every Friday around lunchtime because, well, cooking show lunch. There you go. And every Wednesday night I go live on Moss TV and Friends. I never know who's going to show up. We are back this Wednesday night. Had some technical issues, because I had to take some time off for a few months, but all has been resolved. And yeah, it's every Wednesday, 6 Central, 7 Eastern, which basically, if you watched All In, it's round about the same start time. So there you go. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's at LanceMossTV, and subscribe at youtube.com/LanceMossTV. I'm trying to get to 300.
That's right, guys. So support Lance. Let's get that 300 milestone. And I am your host, Rickhead, your hardcore host, Rickhead. Damn, I'm screwing up tonight. And, you want the latest news, rumors, podcasts, you go to one place. That's the HWR chat room in the group section. And if you want to catch all our additional videos, our past interviews that we've had, shoot videos, you can join us over in youtube.com, and that's under HWR Show. And with that, for the hardcore crew, this is your hardcore host, Rickhead, saying, we'll see you when we see you. Lance?
Wear the shirt.
Buy the, sh- buy the shirt, indeed.